Excellent. So there we go. Okay. Now my mic is not muted, and people should be able to hear me. Let me know if you can't. Let me know if you can't hear me. You should be able to hear me. So yes, and it's just look, it's just me today because Vish sent me a note ahead of the show and said, "Hey, I can't make it." And I was like, "What? Why not?" And she said, here, this is what the text says, um out snipe hunting like John Wick to avenge a neighborhood stray cat. I don't know how much I'll tell you straight up. I said, Vish, I don't believe you. I don't think that's really why you're not here. And she says, okay, I lied. And then she said, actually, I wandered too close to the edge of the La Brea tar pits and got my foot stuck. So she's not here. I'm still not sure if that's the actual reason why she's not here. If you have any ideas about why you think maybe Vish is not here, let me know, chat. Where is Vish today? I wondered if maybe she went to the DMV and just is still stuck at the DMV. It could be that. But it just she's not here, so it's just me. And I was reminded, I was told when I tried to stream on Christmas night by myself that it's something I should just not do. I was told you can't do this. You need some help to do this. So in a pinch, at the last minute, look, it's Lorence. Yay. Lorence is here.
Hola, mis amigos.
Right? Yeah. I think I've got some sound effects here, Lorence. Let's here.
Thank you.
Lawrence,
you.
guys.
I feel
Lawrence is
so
here.
welcome by the bots. All the bots in chat. Look at that.
Love you.
Not
And
a single real person there.
None. They're all not real. And because you're here, you know what that means. It means
the show today is no exception to some of the great work that I've done in the past.
It's going to be an awesome show. An excellent show. Because you're here, man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. I'm always glad to be here.
It's cool. It's fun. So, there's a whole bunch of people that are or bots that are here that I didn't actually acknowledge yet. So Arrow Dodger is here. Good to see you. Same with the weirdo CK Evan, stuck in the liminal lighthouse, is here. So is Holly and the real Melly. And Lil is here, and actually I did see that, Lil. I'll get to that in a minute. Quackshot, can IP make a comment on West Pluff's? Oh, well, this is interesting. I'm unaware of West Huff's plagiarism. I'm happy to hear more about that. I'll probably find it at some point. Prixie Purple is here. I hope you don't mind, Prixie, but tell me if you do mind. But I usually, when there are people in my Hebrew classes who show up in chat, I like to say, "Hey, this person is in my Hebrew." Prixie's in my Hebrew class, so it's awesome to see you. But if you don't want me to talk about that anymore, let me know, and I'll stop. I promise. So Fee 2879 is here. And Stevens is here. Bitcores is here. Archival Blob is here. Look, it's Chrissy Hansen, who says that she can't hear me. I don't believe that's true. People can hear me, right?
Well, now we can. At the beginning,
now we can, right? That's it. That was it. It was
Yeah.
at the beginning. So that's fair. Okay. So
Also,
someone
Chrissy
called
for
the
sure does
Department
not
of War
exist.
Crimes. Chrissy for sure does not exist.
Right. Yeah.
You are hard on the Chrissy mythicist wagon.
Right. Yeah.
And that's maybe a new development since you were here last time. Lorence has adopted the position that Chrissy does not actually exist.
Right. Yeah.
And
it is simply impossible that someone can work so hard for so long and just get so much stuff done. It's just impossible.
It's a lot. It is a lot that she gets done on a regular basis. Satan is here. Simone is here. Good to see you, Simone. Lots of people. Thanks for showing up, people. Lil, yes, send a member chat to make sure. Give vicious treats to Dagon. Well, I mean, I have chips. I guess I could. Hey, buddy, do you want a chip? Yeah, have a chip. So, there you go.
Excuse me, Kip. Do I not get a treat?
No.
Wow.
I mean, I have chips. Do you want a treat?
I would love a treat.
I also have dog treats. I could do this. Here,
I'll take a dog treat.
Can you catch it?
Yeah, let's go.
Here, you know what? I will throw you a chip. Okay.
Thanks.
You ready? Okay.
Yep.
Did you get it?
I might have.
Sweet. Perfect. So, oh no.
And that's going to be clipped into oblivion. Let's go.
It totally is. It's all good. Thanks, Lo. Appreciate it. So, okay. There's a few things that are happening today. First of all, because I promised, somebody brought it up in the Hebrew stream last night, because this last week, the Danny Jones podcast, for those who may not be aware, I was on the Danny Jones podcast like 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, something like that. Amon Hillman, and this was after Amon Hillman was on the Danny Jones podcast and got very very popular after his appearance on the Danny Jones podcast. But just this last week, Amon was back on the Danny Jones podcast with a guy I had not heard of before by the name of Luke Gordon. Luke Gordon is a linguist and he's a trained classicist. And they sat down and had a discussion / debate. And oh man, it is something. It is something to behold. I just thought that I should
behold.
Behold. Yes. Hine. Hido. Hidos. All the words. So listen, I just have to share some of this, because here, let me get this looking proper. There we go. Okay. I just have to share some of this because it's just so good. It delights me to see. This is Luke Gordon here, and they are discussing the origins of the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, whether they were in Greek or in Hebrew. And Luke brings up this important point about the vast quantities of Hebrew literature and cognate Semitic literature that exists from the Iron Age throughout the region, and brings up the Ketif Hinnom scrolls. I quite like this part. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, go to all.
This is the silver. It's written on silver.
You can hear it. Okay.
Oh,
and it's written in Paleo Hebrew. There it is. Priestly blessing from number 6.
Do they think it's in Paleo Hebrew?
It is in Paleo Hebrew.
Two tiny.
Well, I mean, it's a theory because it's true.
No. What is Paleo Hebrew? Explain to the people what Paleo Hebrew is.
Paleo,
and what are your documents that are in Paleo
right
Hebrew?
Here. Here's one of them.
No.
One
this
of
is
thousands.
3 lines from a silver.
One of thousands.
From a silver plate.
One of thousands.
Okay.
So There is Paleo-Hebrew. Everyone agrees that Paleo-Hebrew is an alphabet that was used in pre-exilic times, so leading up to the destruction of Jerusalem by the Babylonians in 586 BC.
Mm-hmm.
They used a different alphabet than they used later, and this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. That's Paleo-Hebrew.
That's silver?
That's silver.
And written. Yeah. So can you zoom in a little bit more, Steve?
Yeah.
So Tohu Wabohu is in there? Or,
no, of course not. That's not the verse.
Text,
yeah, it's a priestly blessing.
So that scribbling is Hebrew.
That's Hebrew. Yeah. And it's something that's in the Bible. It's something in the Hebrew Bible that already is found in an archaeological dig from earlier than 600 BC. So it predates the Septuagint by hundreds of years. They're already writing Hebrew. They're already writing stuff that's in the Bible. They're already inscribing it and on scrolls, maybe keeping it with them, maybe as an amulet.
What is Paleo-Hebrew?
Paleo-Hebrew is this alphabet we're looking at.
This is an alphabet.
That's an alphabet.
Okay, and it's Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey,
That's the it's an abjad.
It's the exact alphabet of the.
It's an abjad.
It's what we call classical Hebrew.
It's a different script, but it's the exact same alphabet. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're sure it's completely been identified as Hebrew.
Sorry, did you need to say something, Lawrence?
That broke me a little bit. So it's exactly the same. No, it's Paleo-Hebrew. It's not exactly the same.
Oh my God. Like, how dumb is this guy?
No,
like,
it's crazy.
It's nuts.
Like, the thing is, when it comes to I forget if it's I forget the name of it, but there's Greek, right? There's modern Greek, but obviously there was ancient Greek before that. There was archaic Greek, and while the alphabets themselves didn't change all that much, I forget what the name is for. Which one was it? Was it linear A or B, or am I mistaking that for something else?
They have deciphered linear B. But
linear A is the one that we don't
not
know.
Yet linear. I think linear A is the one that we don't know.
Yeah, so. I forget which one. But the thing is, you can have an archaic language, an archaic alphabet that changes and develops over time, and then you have something new. So I don't know why he would think that Paleo Hebrew would be the same as modern Hebrew.
But he doesn't even. I won't I encourage people to go. If you are at all interested in just public embarrassment, abject failure in front of hundreds of that video already has over 300,000 views in a few days. Just the colossal failure. If you're into these sorts of things, check it out, because it's beautiful to watch, and it's one of those things where I think somebody suggested that he's willfully ignorant. Amon Hillman is willfully ignorant. The guy pretends or sincerely actually does not know that there's an ancient Hebrew alphabet, and that people can actually read it and don't just make shit up when they look at it, because he seems seriously to be convinced that all the old Hebrew texts, the Paleo Hebrew texts from the Iron Age that we have, are just chicken scratches that people have made up interpretations for. He seems to think this, and I am
the thing that I'm not too keen on, because I know that the stuff that's in the Silver Scroll is it is stuff that's in the Bible for sure, but
yes,
the way, I guess I just didn't like the way that he framed it there, because it was part of a prayer, right? Or part of
it's the priestly blessing,
right?
Numbers 23,
right? Yeah, which could have initially been separate from the rest of it, right, and just included in later, which we have evidence of throughout the Psalms. There are Psalms that are very clearly have an ancient origin, but we're not. I don't know why the hell my lighting just changed, but they were not all written together as as part of the whole work.
Yeah. No, it's wild. But it's fun. I'm fairly sure there was supposed to be a second part. I'm fairly sure there never will be at this point, just by how badly embarrassed David A.C. Hillman was through this performance. But it's good. Somebody was asking about that. I thought it was great. I thought Luke Gordon knows some Hebrew. He did a pretty solid job of explaining himself, explaining the relationship between the Septuagint and the Hebrew Bible. He made a couple of mistakes, but it's neither here nor there. It was generally pretty good. So yeah, my hat's off to you, Luke Gordon, if you ever do see this. So yes, Ali points out that Luke gave him a thorough spanking, and Ancient Stone Mystery says, watch the whole thing, couldn't look away. And that's kind of where I was at too. It just the absurdities just they just kept coming. It was really quite something. All right. So, but what we are here for today is this video from Inspiring Philosophy. So was it, I guess this was earlier this week as well. Mike Jones, and now he has Than Christopoulos is working for him, I think full time now. Than's a friend. We still text on occasion. I don't hold it against him that he's he's working for Inspiring Philosophy. I think he's genuine. I always thought that Than at the heart of it is sincerely he's sincerely a seeker interested in truth, and believes the things that he purports he believes. I think these things about him, at least, as much as I think he's just dead wrong about most of it.
I just want to say real quick here. So when it comes to this is very surreal for me, because I grew up watching Rhett and Link and like the guys from the Ian and Anthony from Smosh. And if you guys don't know the story, Rhett and Link saved Smosh. They really did. Because long story short, so Ian and Anthony sold Smosh to Defy Media. Defy Media went down, and then they were basically looking for a new home, and Rhett and Link stepped in and bought it. And then when Anthony and Ian were like, "Hey, should we buy back Smosh?" They were like, "Yes, absolutely." Like, I don't know how much they paid for it, but they made a deal, and it was great. So it's so surreal seeing Rhett in this, like, now kind of deconstructing and breaking out of that. Yeah, we'll call it a cult. So it's been really surreal seeing that, and it's really cool that he's talking to Alex O'Connor about this stuff.
So yeah, Rhett. What did you say his last name was? I forgot already. Rhett.
I think it's McLaughlin, right?
Rhett McLaughlin. Sure. Oh, look, it's right there on the screen. Excellent. Rhett McLaughlin. He had this sit down with Alex O'Connor, and the premise of this this conversation they had was, how would you fix Christianity? It's pretty interesting as one guy who grew up, I think, fairly fundamentalist and made his way out of that, and then another guy who's just had this enduring long fascination with religion, with the Bible, with forms of Christianity, and so it's an interesting discussion. But boy, oh boy, did this make Mike and Than really, really, really mad. They're very, very upset about this this video, and we're going to talk about one part of it today. Next week, on Friday at the same time on the same channel, I'm going to be back, and we'll look at other chunks of this video, and I'll have another special guest with me. CJ Cornthwaite is going to be coming on and joining me, and CJ is actually a trained New Testament scholar. He has a PhD from the University of Toronto in New Testament studies, and we're gonna talk about some of the things that Rhett and Alex report about the New Testament and how it's affected them as skeptics, and then just the endless crying from Michael and Than. But today we're going to sort of focus in on some things that Rhett and Alex say about Genesis chapter 1 and 2 and their relationship to each other, and the ways in which these texts tend to be treated in certain circles of the Christian church. Before that, though, he goes through a bunch of super chats, and I have a couple, and I'll get to those in just a minute. But before that, Mike addresses a particular super chat question fairly quickly. I wanted to touch on. Before we get to that, though, I'll just grab these quickly. Thank you, thank you, Jester, for the $2. Speaking of almond, guy needs to stop eating paint chips. Agreed. It's bad when people do that. He should stop doing that. It's a solid recommendation. Dave from Toast to Toast is here, has popped in. Thank you. Good to see you. Says, as a connoisseur of both willful ignorance and spectacular failure, this channel seems right up my alley. Thank you for the recommendation, Dr. Kip. You're welcome, Dave. As if you didn't have enough bullshit to occupy your time on YouTube, you could always go watch Danny Jones for a little bit. So I'm just gonna start playing the video here, and we'll stop and talk about it as we go through it. Let me know if you need me to stop it, need me to say anything, Lawrence. But I thought I'd start here, though, just because I think this really picks up on the vibe of this whole thing here.
Let's remember, like, the more we deal, let's just remember, let me just go for just atheists. The more we deal with da'wah, the more we're kind of getting the more emboldened, I guess you could say. Dealing with that loony bin, it really just makes you want to debate more. So if we do, we're going to call you out, invite you on the channel to come talk to us directly. Depending on who it is. If it's honestly, if it's like a bunch of little like tiny channels, we probably won't have time, to be honest. But if it's like a bigger channel, oh yeah, it's happening.
Rationality rules. Where you at?
Boy, so they're very interested. And I think I made this point the last time I covered Mike on this channel. He seems to have leaned quite hard into a lot of the Islam Christian counter apologetics.
Right, yeah. Those are always a lot of fun to watch, I'll be honest, because like from my standpoint, it's like watching a flat earther and a hollow earther debate. Like, it's just very fun. It's just fun.
It can be. Yeah. There's a lot of bigotry that you have to slog through in some of those things. But when you do that, it's worthwhile. But Mike is he's pretty surly. He's emboldened as a result of his experiences in his recent encounters with Muslim apologists. He's feeling pretty cocky, pretty confident.
Right. Yeah. Although when
coming for you, atheists.
Right. Yeah. No, we're next. The thing is that what I will say is that Christian apologetics is far more further along than Muslim apologetics.
Oh, because, so much farther.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of it had to do with the early days of YouTube, where and I mean this unironically, if you were not there in the early days when it was the Wild West of YouTube, you would not know what it was like. So I'm telling you right now, it was cutthroat. Atheists and Christians, they were going at each other. They were looking for blood. There was one instance where there was actually blood, but I'm not going to get into what's his name, Tony String of Numbers. He just had string of numbers. I don't remember his but I think it was someone else. It was completely unrelated. But the thing is, because it was so cutthroat, people had to, it was an evolutionary arms race where people were refining their arguments left and right, and it happened all the fucking time. And the thing is that at least on in the debate sphere, Islam, Muslims never had to do that. They didn't have that same kind of experience as the early Christians of YouTube did.
Wow. Yeah. So so I that's kind of the vibe that we're starting with here. Before we get into the meat of what I wanted to talk about, he had this super chat question about Deuteronomy 21:10-14 that I wanted to touch on quickly as well here.
Deuteronomy 21. I don't remember that off the top of my head, unfortunately.
Jinx. We're so cute, Mike.
Shut up. 10-14. When you go out to war against your enemies and the Lord your God gives them into your hands and you take them captive and you see among the captives a beautiful woman and you desire to take her to be your wife. Oh, let me finish reading this. Okay. Let me just put this on the screen because actually I was talking to Joel Careco at ETS. He had a really good explanation for this and I'm happy to share it. And you desire to take her to be your wife and bring her home to your house. She shall shave her head and pare her nails, and she shall take off her clothes in which she has captured and shall remain in your house and lament her father and her mother for a month. After that, you may go into her and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. So notice, first of all, this needs to be a wife. That's the first thing. This is not a concubine. This is not a sex slave. This is a wife. Now, Careco pointed out.
Is that an important point to make?
For at the time, no, but I think that he would think they would be treated quite differently. That's my guess. Is that if you take some later perspectives on marriage in the Bible, especially from Paul's writings or something, where you kind of have to. There are some verses here and there that talk about you basically have to be a team, right? Now, of course, it's still patriarchal, very much so, but they still talk about being mutually beneficial. But at this point in time, even if you were legally married, there wasn't. I don't think there was a significant difference of treatment here. Plus, you could marry multiple women, right? At this time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. It's not the effective difference.
It's it's a distinction without a difference at this point. Triceratops is sort of picking up what I'm thinking here too. Dr. Jennifer Bird is groaning somewhere. She's written a whole book on marriage in the Bible. It's very good. There it is. Hey, yeah, let's do this. Let's see it. There we go.
Yeah, there it is.
You've read the book, right?
This is part of my reading for my Matthew commentary.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So you've read part of the book.
I've read parts of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's very good. It's very accessible. And yeah, this is just the kind of shit that that Jen would not suffer. She would not suffer this. It's a thing. So he's talking here. He's going to tell us here something that he heard from Dr. Joel Carrico at ETS.
Something really interesting about this. Really interesting.
Very interesting.
The pronouns change. So when you go out to war against your enemies and the Lord God gives them into your hand, you take them captive, and you see among the captives a beautiful woman, and you desire to take her to be your wife, and you bring her home to your house. Notice the shift. Notice the shift. She shall shave her head and pare her nails. Not you shall shave her head and pare her nails. And she shall take off the clothes in which she was captured and shall remain in your house and live with her father and mother a full month. And after that, you may go and her, and she shall be your wife. So what Carrico was pointing out, and he's a Old Testament scholar, he says this implies this is her choice because she is doing these things. So you take her back and you say, hey, I want to marry you. I want to take care of you. Do you want to be my wife? He's pointing out that it's
okay. So
in this case, it's not really a do you want to kind of situation. It's more of a, hey, listen, there's this gun to your head.
Kind of slipped that in there, didn't he?
Do you want maybe?
Do you want? Yeah. I could just stab you now.
Right, yeah. Like you don't have to go through all that morning. Like
but here's your morning clothes and some clippers. Shave your head, cut your nails. I expect to be done by the time I get home. Now because I am a pedantic asshole, and because I feel the burden of pointing this out time and time again whenever I'm dealing with Mike's videos. If you can read Hebrew, importantly, it's not a change of pronouns specifically. It is a change of subjects of the verb specifically. And those of you who are in my Hebrew class, you will learn the difference here in the course of the intervening few weeks. But it's these are pronouns in English, but because Hebrew doesn't necessarily function the same way as English does. Yes, there are independent pronouns in Hebrew, but what we're dealing with here is a change in subject of the verbs from second masculine singular, when you go out to war, and the Lord God gives them into the object here, your hand, and you take them as captive, and you see among the captives a beautiful woman, and you desire to take her to be your wife. The shift here is from the second masculine singular verbs to third feminine singular verbs. So once again, Mike, yeah, you spend so much time dealing with these texts, you should learn the language. Yes, Lorence.
I don't read or don't tell anyone this, but I can read what Jason said in chat.
Oh,
I understood that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Excellent. Happy.
No explanation for why.
No explanation. None
no
whatsoever.
Explanation for why. No.
So, but good to see you, Jace. So, I'll just play this to the end. It seems like now Joel is a friend. We have talked about this text. I don't think he would say, he certainly didn't tell Michael that it's a shift in pronouns. He would have told him properly that this has to do with subjects of the verb. But I don't think he would land so forcefully on this either in my conversations with him. Joel holds a bunch of these things pretty loosely in terms of his reading of them, but let's hear him finish this out.
Implicit, it's not explicit, we'll grant that, but it's implicit that she is accepting that, and then she has to go through this process to be the wife. That is what he is arguing. And we had a long conversation about this as well. So again, I'm going to look into more on that. Maybe there's some counterpoints to that, but that's what I was getting from Joel. And I think he's brilliant.
So I'm just going to bring the text back here so that we can see it as I say a couple things about this. Yeah, very, very implicit, isn't it? I mean, these are certainly in the first part of this text, these are some pretty direct, strong verbs. You desire to take her to be your woman, specifically. You're taking, you're not approaching and asking permission. You're taking. That's what the word means. You bring her home. It feels like these guys want to imply consent to this on the basis of the fact that she's the one who's performing the actions of ritual and mourning and what follows.
Right.
This is, I mean, it's not a good argument. I'm sorry. I don't think this is remotely convincing.
I agree, and I also want to always point out a friendly reminder for everyone: there's no such thing as a perfect translation.
There sure isn't.
You just can't do it. You just can't. Everything sounds all sorts of fucked up in translation. So
yeah,
while like, you know, I think that there are certainly some things you can gain from not knowing, like even without knowing an original language. Like there's certainly some things you can gain and learn about the context of the time and about, you know, scholarship, for example. But if you really want to, like, you know, go down to the nuts and bolts, then yeah, you kind of got to learn the language.
Yeah, you kind of do. Yeah. It's pretty important for doing some of these things.
Yeah, like you could, like someone could arrive at like a proper conclusion about, you know, like the meaning of a certain story or something. But if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, you just got to start learning languages. Like there's a lot of stuff that comes out, because I've been doing stuff with Matthew recently, and there is something that doesn't quite shine through in English translations. And one of the things is especially the use of the passive, because instead of, like, you know, Jesus healing someone directly, the person is healed. So, you know, kind of skirting around him doing stuff specifically. So I think that you can still, like, get, like, you know, good interpretations out of things. But if, like, again, you want to get down to business to defeat the Huns, you gotta learn the original language.
And listen, I'm pretty stoked about all of this. I feel like you know, I noticed this here. Will Clark is going to be starting Dr. Dan McClellan's Hebrew course next month. Josh and I are teaching Hebrew courses. I'm pretty stoked at the fact that, you know, in the course of the last year, I don't know what kind of numbers Dan's doing, but like in the course of the last year, between Josh and myself, we probably had like 50 people just in this community who have expressed an interest and have started learning the language, which is tremendous as far as I'm concerned. I'm also going to be starting, I'm not ready to announce anything yet, but I'm also going to be starting a new venture to reach more people to learn Hebrew here in the near future. So anybody who yeah, no kidding. Like I'm sure the number is quite a bit higher than that, just based on the fact that I don't know what kind of numbers that Dan is doing.
Better
But
than you.
undoubtedly, undoubtedly better than me. That's that's how these things go. So just picking up this super chat here from Becca Boo. Did you finish? Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Did you finish Star Spangled Jesus? I just read it. Do you have thoughts? This is April LaJoy's book, which I have not yet read. When I was on my holiday, I listened to Catherine is it Demez? It's an older book by now, 15 years old. Jesus and John Wayne, which was excellent. And I started listening to Tim Alberta's. Let me just see if I can just pull the Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory. American Evangelicals in the Age of Extremism. I started working my way through that one as well. But I am April's book is on my list, and I'm absolutely going to check it out. I'm sorry that I haven't read it yet. When I do read it, I will be certain to share my thoughts about it. Okay, now I did on a less on a fairly serious note, a more serious note, a sad note here. I did want to show some love to my friend Joel right now. Joel Carrico is a friend. He's a friend of the channel. He's a friend in real life. He lives in my town, just down the road from me. Joel has stepped away from YouTube. He has stepped away from work because he and his family had a really terrible holiday season. Their youngest daughter was diagnosed with an acute form of leukemia, and they are they're focused on looking after her right now. There's a GoFundMe that's been started. I will be sure to put actually, if I can, let me send this to a mod to post it in the chat. Where are we here? I'll send it to a couple who Simone is watching. So I'll if I send this to you on Discord, Simone, can you post the link in the chat for the GoFundMe for Asha? Joel is at the Vancouver Children's Hospital with her right now, has been for the last few weeks. Thank you, Archival Blob. But people who pray, please pray for Joel and pray for his family. Even if you don't pray, seriously, I don't know. This feels like one of these moments where it doesn't. I don't feel bad about asking people to send your prayers and your best wishes and your thoughts to Joel and his family. If you can help him and his family, if you can afford it, I'm sure they would be grateful. They would appreciate the hell out of it. I'm a parent. My kids are grown. I can't imagine what this must be like, what they must be going through. And I love Joel. And I don't want him and his family to have to suffer through this. So if you can help, please help, but please also just keep them in your thoughts and your prayers. So Joel, if you see this, we are thinking of you, a whole bunch of us, and we hope you're doing well and that your family's doing well. All right. So yeah, that was a bit of a downer. But
I think we can take some solace in the fact that from what I've heard from both doctors and people I know that have had leukemia, that it is one of the easier forms to deal with. But again, I am not a doctor, but from what I know, there's a good chance that she can beat this.
Well, we all remain very hopeful.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, thank you, everyone. And just before we move on here, Satan 616, one of my former Hebrew students. Thank you for the Romanian things, whatever those
Romanian
are.
lay.
The Remain. Do you know what they are?
Yeah.
Let me know what those are. Romanian lay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Is that what they're called? Oh, cool. Thanks. Thank you for the 50 Romanian lei. I can't understand how people can think that after murder, speaking of the war bride from the Deuteronomy 21 passage, I can't understand how people can think that after murdering her family, she would just start loving the murderer, especially after, wiping out her culture. IP and company basically ignore human nature. Yeah. Kind of feels like there's a bunch of that going around with bad apologetics, right? There we go. Leon's. Thank you. Oh yeah, whoops. I probably shouldn't have said war. I shouldn't have said that, right? I'm sure somebody's called it that, and I picked that up. Yeah. So we're gonna shift gears here with the video. And at this point, Rhett and Alex start talking about things that this whole video, like I said, is all about how the kinds of changes they might make to improve the church, and for Rhett, coming out of religion, coming out of his fundamentalist form of Christianity. Evolution was a big deal for him. You can see here the chapter of this part of the video is entitled "Christians Should Embrace Truth," and the talking point for them is that shouldn't we already know that evolution is an established fact of biology. It feels like there's some moral responsibility on the part of the church to make this an urgent point of communication. At the very least, start telling people the truth about science.
I'm pretty sure the last pope definitely did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember, I don't know if this is still true, but I remember a long time ago, there was a debate between Michael and Kent Hovind on whether or not evolution was compatible with Christianity. Or whether or not evolution was true or something like that. But I remember Michael doing very well in that debate. I mean, he was up against Kent Hovind, right? But so it's not like the bar was super high. But he definitely, from what I remember, he does accept evolution, unless that's changed.
Oh yes, Michael accepts evolution.
Yeah.
But we'll let this play a little bit. Rhett makes a really interesting point here, a really important point, I think, with regards to how this question affected the way that he started to think about other things, though, too. within Christianity.
But the crazy thing about this is that, and I talked about this before, this idea that people are like, why is this such a big deal to you? Because there's plenty of Christians who believe in evolution. Why did you let this affect you so much? And I try to be clear, and I'll say it again. I didn't stop being a Christian because of evolution, because there's plenty of C.S. Lewis. There's plenty of Christians who believe in evolution. But what it did for me is it caused me to develop a trust problem with the most powerful voices in the faith who were leading me through some of these issues and helping me think about them.
I see.
And the interesting thing is that some of the most prominent apologetics voices today, people who have a lot of traction on YouTube, they readily admit they believe in evolution because they are familiar with the evidence and they understand that it's not a controversial thing. It's not like, well, they know that it's true. But it's such a consequential truth that if you have the majority of people in your church not believing it, that represents a really significant truth problem. And I just don't know why more of them are not shouting it from the rooftops of like, we got to get this right. Like, we have to accept this fact. If we're going to move forward in the long term, we have to accept this fundamental fact about reality. And I think there's some downstream effects, like in your conversation on Diary of a CEO with Greg Koukl.
So we're getting kind of.
Hey, did you see that, by the way? His the conversation that Alex had with Greg Koukl on Diary of a CEO. Yeah, that's worthwhile checking out. But one of the things I like about this particular clip, and this isn't the main point. We'll get to that. I want to add, in a few minutes here, he's going to start talking about Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2, and that's going to make Michael and Then very upset. And we'll set some focus there. But he said something important, and this resonates with me a little bit too. I don't know if you picked that up, but the learning the science of evolution did a couple things for Rhett. I think it helped him to think through critically an element of scientific theory that he didn't know before. But then it also, if I'm hearing him correctly, it helped him to recognize that wait a minute, there's a whole bunch of other things that I can apply the same level of rigor to learn about. And I've been, I have these leaders, these Christian leaders, these church leaders who've been telling me all this time that evolution is wrong. Wow. What else are they keeping from me? What else are they not being truthful about?
Are you referencing your own experience there?
This is part of my own experience too. So because I think that one was, it took me, I'm embarrassed to say that I, for the longest time, for a long time, I came to I grew up in like in a pretty fundamentalist culture, fundamentalist household. And when I started university and I had to take biology right away, it was it was just kind of, it was pretty fast that I recognized, well, yeah, this is okay. So that's all that stuff that I learned as a fundamentalist evangelical was wrong. Other courses that I was taking too in biblical studies and history and psychology and stuff were, revealing these things to me. But with evolution, I think I accepted it because I understood that this was what scientists were teaching and saying a long time before I actually even came to the point where I actually got it and understood, right? Because I do remember it being a while, and then one day the lights kind of just went on. And I'm like, oh, I think I get it now.
Yeah, evolution is one of those things where, like, even when I was still a believer, I accepted evolution because it was mostly because, at the time I was young So I was just kind of following, what my teachers were teaching me. But the more you learn about evolution, the more you realize, and I say this often, there is more evidence for evolution than there is for gravity. Like, if just sheer amount, like if you were to quantitative evidence, there's more, because you have all these fields of science converging to this one conclusion: evolution, and it's really undeniable. Yep. And I think Rhett's point here is that like his leaders in the church, according to him at least, unless I misunderstood something, was that they accepted it. They accepted evolution, but the thing is, the laity didn't, and he sees that divide, and he's like,
yeah,
why are they so? What is the word blasé? Is that it? Blasé with the truth? Like they are just not.
They don't care. They're not paying attention, or it just doesn't matter.
It's not important to them. Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think that's right. By the way, on the Diary of a CEO show that Alex was on, I believe Paul did a video about that a few months ago. It's very good. I'm right about that, aren't I, Paul? That you did a video about it, and I'm right too. I think that it's very good. Please, confirm that yes, you did a video, and that yes, it's very good. So people should check that out. So it's but this is all sort of leading into the main thing here about the creation stories. Yes, sure, yes, he did a very good video. So people go watch it. So we're gonna, we'll hear what Than and Mike take away from this, and then we'll hear Rhett and Alex talk a little bit about Genesis.
Off track here, but I mean his basic point is he wants us to accept evolution. So he wants Christians to accept they believe in foolish and dumb things and be okay with that, except when it's inconvenient for them. Then we got to believe in truth. Then we got to accept evolution. Like, pick a narrative. You can't have it both ways. If you just got done telling Christians that they are allowed to believe in foolish and stupid things, why do they have to believe in evolution also? Why should we embrace truth when you just got done saying embracing faith means you basically believe in blind faith, and you just accept you believe foolish and dumb things and don't worry about it?
Yeah.
Why not just believe the earth is 6,000 years old? Heck, why not?
So this is the part. Which no, not exactly. Like this is the part of the video I didn't cover. We'll cover some more of this next week. But in the other part of the video, Rhett sort of sets his focus on how much the Bible and a lot of churches emphasize faith over skepticism or critical thinking, right? As a means to arrive at your convictions and the truth. And I think the point that he's trying to make is that a better path forward for a lot of Christians is to accept the fact that this is very much about your own personal relationship with God, about that than it is about the scientific evidence and the history, and to sort of set these things into two separate categories. So and I think Mike and Than kind of missed that in this, because it seems like they understood from that Rhett was telling them to believe stupid things, and just so I don't know, yeah, but
yeah, I don't think I have enough context for this, because he didn't,
probably not,
at least from the clip that I saw, that's not what he was getting at. Maybe there's more context there that I'm missing.
There might be, and maybe I should have clipped this a little bit later, but Yeah.
I believe it's 100 years old if we're going to do that.
Here's the thing I don't get. And maybe this is just presumptuous because, we only got 500,000 subs and I don't know what Alex is at. But Rhett's complaining about the fact that there's not enough apologists out there, something like that, like shouting it from the rooftops that like Christianity and evolution are compatible and we're arguing that are arguing against the young earth creationists. Bro, we are right here. We have asked you to come discuss with us. Like, maybe the problem is not that there's not enough of us out there. Maybe the problem is that you're just like not actually looking.
Yeah, could be. Maybe. We're not saying that's a definitive, but I mean, like,
yeah. Oh, I'm only putting that out there as a possible explanation, or it's not mutually exclusive to the idea that there's not enough out there. But if you think this is a problem, why don't you bring attention to the people that are speaking against it?
Right.
So
you want to help the church, show the church more people that are arguing against this young earth creationist stuff.
So maybe he is. But I mean, like,
yeah, okay. So while Michael and Than would accept that, you can have both Christianity and evolution, Rhett's point was that the people who run
Kind of the
these
rank and
services,
file.
right?
Yeah,
like
and
the
then
people who have some kind of authority within the hierarchy of their respective churches aren't the ones doing it. That you do have to find, like, while they are around, there are plenty of them. They're not the ones, leading services. And the ones that are arguing with them are not the ones leading services.
Yeah, I think this is a very good point here that Paul brings up. The problem isn't the number of people against young earth creationism. The problem is that you are completely ineffective at a 60% fail rate. So it's and I think I think it's challenging. With the ways in which a lot of conservative models for Christianity are structured, it's very challenging to get over that one hurdle in order to move forward with other things. There's a reason why, I guess so-called, well, let's call them more progressive forms of Christianity, some of the or some of the older Protestant forms of Christianity. There's a reason why it's not just evolution, but it's also all the forms of biblical criticism that they embrace, because this is a, when you get down to it, it's a worldview question. And I think the problem for a lot of people is they start to see the cracks and the inconsistencies in like a worldview, like what Mike and what Than want to promote, where we'll accept this particular scientific theory, but then when it comes to the same methodology and the same scientific rigor as it's applied in these other areas, we're going to challenge that. And then when you get to that point, then really how different is that from, young earth creationists who aren't flat earthers, right? We'll reject that, or we're with the scientific community when it comes to that. But on this point, do you know what I mean? Like it feels like there's this is a bigger challenge in some of these more conservative spaces.
Yeah, I think that fundamentally we're dealing with two different things though, because one is, when we're talking about a hard science, it's the scientific method for it. It would be different methodology than, something in biblical criticism.
Yeah.
Or any kind of literary criticism. So the evidence is just of a different nature, and I think that might be the kind of wall that's being put up, where it's like, okay, so like stuff with evolution that makes sense, right? Because you can see it, you can test it in a much more like, you know, visual kind of way. And then with, you know, something like biblical criticism, there are a lot of puzzle pieces that you have to try to put together, and it can get daunting. It really can.
Yes.
Yeah. Like it can become a maze. And in fact, I think there's God, what's the name of the book? It's on the synoptic problem. It's called A Way Through the Maze. It's from oh my God, the Far Hypothesis guy who's currently
Goodacre.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, he wrote that book, and I do not hold to the Far Hypothesis, but he does a good job of saying, like, listen, there's a bunch of it's a big pile of stuff. How do we figure out what the hell is even going on? Where do we start?
Right.
So I think that it's of a very different nature, these two endeavors.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's very true. But yeah, maybe let's we should start talking about some about biblical criticism here, and see how this goes with Red and Al.
Have it both ways.
But there's also things that we can know about the Bible, like talking about Genesis. Well, it's pretty clear.
So before we start this, I want people, and you too, Lorence, pay close attention to the body language and the reactions and the composure of Mike and Than here as they're listening to Rhett talk about things that we can know about the Bible as well. All right, pay attention to that.
That there's two accounts of creation in Genesis.
No, it isn't.
This is from two different sources.
Like
that whoever put the Bible together decided pretty clear that there's two accounts of creation.
This is what you mean. But like, pick a narrative. You cannot have it both ways.
But there's also things that we can know about the Bible, like talking about Genesis. Well, it's pretty clear that there's two accounts of creation in Genesis.
No, it isn't.
This is from two different sources.
Like
that whoever put the Bible together decided that even though they were contradictory in some ways about the order of creation, the emphasis, the name of God, and these things, that these two theological perspectives were important to include. So do you have to take the edges off and insist that it's one voice and that Moses wrote it? Or can you be like, no, for some reason, God decided to have these disparate accounts in his word that may be different than you actually think about? Or
so that's a false dichotomy. It doesn't have to be either Moses wrote it or it's contradictory accounts. That's a false dichotomy.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. You could theoretically have both. You could theoretically have both of them. The thing is, we can read these accounts, and basically every scholar, whether it doesn't really matter what hypothesis you hold to, whether it be supplementary or documentary, they are contradictory accounts in many ways. And that doesn't just go away. So the
reaction from these two, though, seems to be like, when I watch this, if I didn't know anything about the theories of the composition of the Bible, I would watch this and I would think, well, Mike and Than seem to think that what Rhett just said was the dumbest thing they've ever heard. Right? Like the response, I mean, at one point, Mike says, Rhett says, it's clear that there are two separate creation stories. He's talking about Genesis 1 and Genesis chapter 2 to 3. Mike says, no, it isn't. It's not clear.
Right, even though it kind of is.
kind of,
Yeah,
right? Like
kind
it
of is.
just it's yeah, that's I think that's the mind-boggling thing here is the way that these guys want to structure the scholarly conversation when it comes to stories of creation, when it comes to the composition of the Torah and the Pentateuch, when it comes to these things, is surprising. It's a bit jarring.
Because like for these two, I would think that the other another option would be, okay, well, Moses didn't write it and they're not contradictory. Actually, I don't know where Michael stands on that. I have no idea. However, I would think that he does not think that they're contradictory. So
I don't think he does.
Right, yeah.
Right. He probably holds to a unity,
right,
an internal consistency.
Yeah.
It's just there's ways to get there, right? So, and these are questions that I've had for a long time. Part of the reason I titled the stream the way I did is because this is something that he's been talking about for years, that I and Josh have challenged him on for years, and yet he continues to promote the same sort of stuff when it comes to the book of Genesis. So, but let's continue here. I'm sure you'll have more things to say. I certainly will have some more things to say.
We have got a video on this, using some of the most up-to-date scholarship. I made this video script before the author even had the main paper I relied on, before that paper was published. The paper came out around the same time as the video did, because I was talking to scholars. How do we deal with this issue? Can you give me some up-to-date research? And Benjamin Kilker was super helpful in that. So this was using most up-to-date scholarship.
So have you heard of Benjamin Kilker before?
I have not.
I had not heard of him either. Josh hadn't heard of Benjamin Kilker either. He's a Swiss scholar, I think, at an evangelical school in Switzerland. Might be part of why I hadn't heard of him before. But the argument that Michael and this is this is a video that he made a number of years ago on the internal consistency of the book of Genesis, and why we can be why people can be confident that it's not actually separate creation stories. There's just it's just a single story. So this is some of the evidence that he's putting forward here. If you look on the screen, I think this is what he says that he's getting from Benjamin Kilker. He's looking at literary patterns that exist between this chunk of text from Genesis 1 to 4 is then reflected in Leviticus chapter 8 through 10. The glory of God fills the cosmic sanctuary over 7 days. There's the 7 days of consecration themes in Leviticus. Priests appointed are on the 8th day to serve in God's sacred space. Appointment of priests that are allowed to enter the tabernacle. Priests banished cannot be naked. There's dietary violations. The death of Nadab and Abihu, no strong drink, dietary laws. Like, some of the connections here I don't know if I would say vague, but they're not precise, right?
Yeah, this is a very who was it? Mark S. Smith. Didn't Smith write something pretty similar to this? It's called what was it called? The Priestly Vision in Genesis 1. I think that was the name of the book.
Yes.
Yeah. So if he's arguing for this, all coming from one account, because it really does. This really is, in a sense, supplementary, right? This is like the crux
Yep.
of Van Setter's argument here. But that there has always been this idea that the heavens would parallel creation in some way.
Mm-hmm.
It's all throughout Jubilees, for example, right? You have, I think, I think it might be in Jubilees, right, where even angels get circumcised, I think it's in Jubilees. But there's also the this idea of the angels are also ministering to kind of parallel the earthly temple in the same way. So like you can have here a like an idea like that, but it doesn't exclude the idea that they are different creation stories. As in, like,
Yes.
Yeah, because you still have if we're going with Genesis 1 and 2, you still have a creation story that is being built off of the nature of the tabernacle stuff. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't get rid of the creation part of creation.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. So we'll talk a little bit more, and I brought some texts that I want to read. And we'll talk a little bit more about this distinction between Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2. But like at this point in this part of the video that these guys are attempting to address, I have a number of questions. I'm like, this is an important one, right? What do you imagine the text looked like in the earliest stages? What did that look like? What is your theory of development in the Pentateuch? Who wrote it, and then how did it end up in the form that we have it today, or was it always in that form? These are questions that I have for you guys, especially since you seem fairly incredulous about this. It's a very, very basic presentation by Rhett of what I would consider a fairly well-grounded scholarly view of the field. So I just want to we'll listen to what he has to say here in response, and then I want to get into some secondary literature.
One of the main points we make in this video, Kilker, who helped me write it, is that if you actually go through what Genesis is laying out, you start in Genesis 1, Genesis 2, Genesis 3, Genesis 4, it follows a very similar structure to what you see with Exodus, building of the tabernacle. Then there's a 7-day consecration. Then there's appointment of priests, just like Adam and Eve are appointed as priests. Then there's a death, the death of the sons of Aaron, followed by banishment in the garden, the spiritual death aspects. Then it moves right next to Genesis 4 about the proper offerings. You see the same thing in Leviticus 10. With this whole aspect about them being two different creation accounts, what I'd started off in this video was actually cited some of the earlier creation accounts that you could go through the example of the Asher Hasis, and you could actually divide it into two creation accounts. Same with Enki and Ninmah. And what we basically found out is that, no, this is just the common way ancient authors were writing in their time, to write in a certain way. We even found evidence of chiastic structures. I mean, there was a lot of data to cover in this, and it was based on some pretty up-to-date scholarship on this.
What was that?
Was that John Walton that he was citing?
Yeah, it was. His lost world of creation, I think. So, which is interesting because I'm fairly sure Walton even promotes the idea that there are distinct creation stories in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 to 3. John Walton, I'm fairly sure.
Yeah, he's I think so. He's a pretty conservative scholar too.
Super conservative guy, but even he is on board with this. So
in this, and it was based on some pretty up-to-date scholarship.
Up-to-date scholarship. Yeah.
Where's the other chart I wanted to bring up? Oh yeah, you could go through Genesis 1 to 3 compared to Genesis 8 and 9. Gary Rensburg talks about this in his book, The Redaction of Genesis. They're following a similar pattern and structure. Does that mean they're making everything up? No. They're selecting events they want and using it to make the structure.
So, like, and this is part of what I have to remind people of time and time again. When it comes to understanding the composition of the Torah, the different sources within the Torah, just because scholars continue to maintain that there are these separate traditions that were brought together over time, that doesn't mean that you can't find these larger patterns within the texts that look like that, because the redactors were trying to do that. They're bringing sources together and trying to create something coherent and unified. So of course you're going to see these correspondences from one part of the text to another, because that's what the redactor wants you to see. But that doesn't in any way invalidate the fact that there are these distinctions between the individual parts of the literature that the redactor either did not as effectively eliminate or didn't feel, any compunction about maintaining. Both things can be true at the same time. It's like they don't even understand. It's like they haven't even read or have any concept at all of how these theories actually work within scholarship, what they actually look like. It's wild.
Yeah, I mean, like the model for things like this is hard to grasp. If you were to like graph it all out, it would look kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why like scholars usually concentrate on like, one part at a time or a few parts at a time. But then eventually after studying this stuff, like you can come to your own conclusions about certain texts. I think that's perfectly fine. But it's also when we're looking at some of these story notes that he's taking, a lot of it is stretching, but there is also quite a bit of stuff missing in each one, like the stuff in between all these.
Yes, very important to note that.
Yeah, it's not as clear as it is, for example, with the golden calf narrative, right? And that being related to the king's narrative. Like that one is pretty clear, I think. I think the evidence for that one is so solid.
Yeah.
Like that being a construction.
Oh, yeah. Agreed.
It's very easy to do that with history. People look for patterns. It's natural. So you can find them even in what you would perceive to be history, as the author here is doing. But again, what does Rhett do? Well, it's just very obviously that. I don't know the scholarship, and I'm not going to believe the other alternative that Moses wrote it. Like there's no middle ground. As I've said before, I hold to a supplementary hypothesis. I don't have to believe all of it goes back to Moses.
I think that's important. Michael says that he holds to a supplementary hypothesis and doesn't believe that all of it goes back to Moses.
I think that the reason why there are multiple Christians holding to the supplementary hypothesis is because it was a debunking of the documentary hypothesis. And to them, that was like, that's enough. That's all we need, without the ramifications of what that means. Like, Van Setters is incredibly smart guy. He's my favorite author, probably. Like, he has done so much good work. And I don't know how someone can maintain the amount of faith that someone like Michael has and accept the Van Setter's ideas. I don't get it. Genuinely, I don't.
See, and here's what I think, and we'll get into this a little bit. I actually think that, and I think you're right. I think when Van Seters and started to really come out with some convincing criticism of the problems with the documentary hypothesis, lots of evangelicals latched onto this and went, finally, we have something, right? But then just didn't get what Van Seters was actually trying to argue, what he was actually trying to put forward, right?
He was saying these texts are even later than you guys think. They're even less reliable.
Yes.
And it's just so fascinating to me.
So
you know who recommended? Do you know who recommended Van Setters to me?
Who?
Sentinel Apologetics.
No
he
way.
Did. He was like, I think you'd really like it. And he's right. I did really like it. It actually made me more confident in my positions.
Did you come back to him and go, have you read this?
I did not.
Wow.
But yeah, yes. Sentinel Apologetics got me on the Van Setters train. Because he does have some incredibly strong criticisms.
Yes.
And he presents a really pretty good model for the time, and especially in conjunction with Thompson's work, right? Thomas L. Thompson's.
Yep, Thompson's work.
Now it's like you can't even really accept the creation stories. You can't accept the patriarchal narratives, because everything's pushed so far back.
Yeah, it's true.
So I just don't get it how people can maintain both those.
No. So this is one of my enduring questions. I have a couple things that I would like to ask Michael. I have something I'd like to say to him too. But a couple of the things that I would like to ask directly, Michael, you too, Than, what do you mean by supplementary hypothesis? What do you think that means when you use that term? And then I think importantly, if you don't think that the Torah was written by Moses, then what was? Was any of it written by Moses? What was the earliest part? What were the supplemental layers? How do we know those? What does that look like to you? Because I've watched your Genesis videos, I've watched your documentary hypothesis videos, and I remain confused about what you think about these things. You seem to want to do just what Lorence is suggesting. You want to forward the criticism of the documentary hypothesis without actually understanding what Van Seters was proposing and how that has forwarded scholarship since then. I want to finish this clip and then we'll look at some stuff.
Mm-hmm. But this is a, I don't even have to believe Moses wrote it, on my view. I don't think documents were written by one person in those days. These were always collective things, as they point out in the book, Misreading Scripture with Western Eyes.
Beast.
All right. So I'm gonna put that down for a minute. That's also a book I'd never heard of. Reading Scripture through Western Eyes. It's a popular book. It's an evangelical book. It's one of those books to help lots of evangelicals and conservative Christians feel better about believing some things that are more challenging to believe. So all right, so the first place I want to go, just because I think this is an excellent introduction to modern Pentateuchal criticism. This is from Leanna Feldman's what's the name of the book here? It's
was she the one that wrote the priestly narrative?
Fire.
Yes,
yeah,
that's the one.
The Consuming Fire,
yes.
the complete priestly source from creation to the promised land. Excellent book. So this is a translation of just the priestly source, right? What scholars have identified as so-called P. She's written a whole translation, like her own, she's put together all the texts in order of what she thinks this looked like, and made this translation, and it's excellent. And one of the things I love so much about this book is her introduction is phenomenal. Her introduction to the priestly source, her introduction here on the first 3 pages to Pentateuchal criticism is 3 pages of just an excellent snapshot view of where scholars have come from and where they are now on this question of the composition of the Torah. And I'm just going to read it. The biblical priestly narrative is first and foremost a hypothetical document. To explain what I mean by this and why this edition is not simply one scholar's imagination run wild, which is how source theories tend to be presented by conservatives and evangelicals. I first offer a very brief introduction. I survey some of the central points of agreement in the field of biblical studies about the composition of the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, commonly called the Torah or Pentateuch. Then I explain the specific methodological approach that stands in the background of this project. Around the 17th century, scholars began to question and ultimately reject the idea that the Torah was written by Moses. But if Moses did not write it, then who did? And more pointedly, how many people wrote it? Unfortunately, there's not a single answer to either question. Debates about the literary history and authorship of these 5 books began with Baruch Spinoza and continue to this day. There are, however, a few broad conclusions that nearly all biblical scholars have come to agree on. Many of these conclusions can be summed up in the statement that the Pentateuch is a composite text. Its division, sorry, I have to cough. There we go. Its division into 5 books was not original, but it is nevertheless made up of multiple parts with different authors. The 5 books of Moses are not 5 books, and they are also not by Moses. The works that we now know as Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy are not an original part of this text. They are the result of choices made by scribes centuries after the texts that make up the Pentateuch were written. No one ever set out to write Genesis. Instead, the book that we now know as Genesis is the result of Persian and Hellenistic era Jewish scribes being faced with technological limitations. In the latter half of the first millennium BCE, texts composed in Hebrew were written on scrolls, made either of animal skins, parchment, or plant materials, papyrus. Today, all 5 books are commonly copied onto a single large scroll, which can be found in every synagogue. But in antiquity, these scrolls could not be infinitely long. At some point, they would tear. According to the scholar Menachem Haran, an estimate for the maximum length of a scroll at the time is roughly the equivalent to the Book of Chronicles, which spans more or less 1,650 verses in modern editions, or around 48 pages in modern print Bibles. The Pentateuch, by comparison, covers about 146 pages, or 5,845 verses, about 3.5 times the size of Chronicles. Since the Pentateuch was too long for a single scroll, ancient scribes chose to break it into 5 sections at relatively logical points in the story. Genesis narrates the creation of the world through the Israelites' descent into Egypt. Exodus covers the Israelites in Egypt through the revelation at Sinai. Leviticus describes the creation of a mobile tent shrine and home for the Israelite God Yahweh. Numbers tells of the Israelites' departure from Mount Sinai and their wanderings in the wilderness, and Deuteronomy as Moses' final speech to the Israelites on the day of his death, while they stand at the edge of the promised land. Today, we are accustomed to thinking of books as what authors write. In this case, what we encounter now as the 5 books of the Pentateuch are the result of scribes reaching the limits of what a scroll could contain. Rather than completely filling one scroll and moving on to the next, these scribes chose to make thematic divisions that resulted in 5 scrolls of unequal lengths. But why would these scribes be faced with this problem at all? If the Pentateuch was too long for a single scroll, wouldn't an author have separated their own work into such sections when faced with this same limitation? This leads to one point that scholars largely agree on. The Pentateuch, as we have it today, was not composed in this form. One of the main contributions of Pentateuchal scholarship over the last 2 centuries has been showing that within the Pentateuch there are multiple versions of stories that contradict each other in some way. This has led to the conclusion that the Pentateuch was made up of several smaller strands of text that were each written by different authors. These strands were later combined into what we know today as the Pentateuch by a series of editors over an extended period of time. This is what we mean when we say that the Pentateuch is a composite text. It is made up of multiple different compositions written by multiple authors. Each of these compositions would have been short enough to fit on a single scroll. How many different compositions were there? How many different authors were responsible for the contents of what is now the Pentateuch? These remain open questions, investigated and debated by scholars in the field of Pentateuchal studies. There is precious little agreement among scholars about these issues, with 2 notable exceptions, and this is really the important part. As Reinhard Kratz put it, we can distinguish and isolate 2 distinct literary strata within the Pentateuch: the Book of Deuteronomy and the so-called priestly writing, or P. Most of the disagreement has been on the identification of authors and units within the non-priestly, non-Deuteronomic strands. I hope that that's the part I really want to settle on here. Most of the disagreement among scholars has been on the identification of authors and units within the non-priestly, non-Deuteronomic strands. And that's when Lorence and I are talking about the supplementary hypothesis, when we're talking about the work of Van Cedars, this was the kind of criticism that he was bringing to bear on the documentary hypothesis. He was looking and saying, J.E., we don't really know what's there.
Right, yeah. Like, he was very clear on, like, you can't just cut it up by, like, I mean, to some extent, like, I could still use, like, J and E as, you know.
And scholars still do.
Yeah, as, like, you know, titles, you know, like boxes. Yeah. But, like, you know, we have to realize, like, okay, well, it started off as, like, you know, you got the name of Yahweh and you got the name Elohim for God. And of course, like, you can't really divide it up that way. There's too many issues with that. So I would agree that, yeah, his you know, one of his big points of criticism was, like, it's kind of like flipped the documentary hypothesis on its head almost.
Yeah,
in a way. So it's a very different, it's a different way of looking at it. But it's still, like, in essence, you still have the same, like, a lot of the, you know, let's, you know, just call them discoveries. Maybe not discoveries. maybe advancements, that was a lot of the conclusions they came to with the documentary hypothesis. They didn't like all go away with Van Setter's. Like he still accepted much of their because like for let's put it this way, for a long time it was thought that like, okay, Moses wrote the whole thing, it's a unity, all this stuff. Once you start taking it up in blocks, the blocks didn't go away. Van Setter's just moved them around.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I wanted to, so when Michael talks about, because that's the message I get clearly, because this is essentially what Red is talking about here when he says there are two separate creation stories, one in Genesis chapter 1 and one in Genesis chapter 2 and 3. This is what he means. There is, even though he doesn't necessarily have the language to express this is what he means. He means there is a priestly creation story in Genesis 1 that virtually all scholars recognize as distinct from a non-priestly creation story in Genesis chapter 2 and 3. That's essentially what he's saying. And this seems to be the thing that Michael seriously wants to challenge. And this is where I always get confused. He wants to challenge this idea. He wants to maintain that there's some sort of internal consistency or unity between Genesis 1 and 2 and 3. While then at the same time maintaining that he's an advocate of the supplementary hypothesis. Reinhard Kratz is an advocate of the supplementary hypothesis. Reinhard Kratz, who just said the two things that all scholars agree on is P, right? Whatever's P, scholars agree on, and Deuteronomy. So, and the D layer. So yeah, when Michael says that he holds to the supplementary hypothesis, he's clearly talking about something different than what biblical scholars are actually talking about, because it's not that. It's I wanted to, David Carr wrote an excellent book a couple years ago called the Formation of Genesis 1 to 11. Have you read that one?
I have a copy of it right here.
Oh, yeah, right there.
By copy, I mean a PDF. But
okay. I also have a PDF right here that I was going to share on the screen. Let's see, where did
I got mine pulled up. What page are we going to?
So I want to start at I want to look at oh yeah, let's look at page 17 and see how David Carr describes this same situation. I'll put mine on the screen here.
Yeah.
Where is it? There it is, David Carr. Okay.
Title here: Genesis 2:4b through 3:24 as probable precursor to Genesis 1.
That's the one. So there it is. Looks like that, right?
Yep.
Got the right one. Okay. So this it's these first two this first paragraph especially, but these first two paragraphs I want to point something out. An often discussed possible textual precursor. So this is his chapter where he's talking about sources behind Genesis 1, the Genesis 1 creation story. One of those sources, he spends a lot of time talking about Psalm 104, but another one of those sources as a probable precursor to Genesis 1 is the other creation story in Genesis chapter 2 and 3. Another often discussed possible textual precursor to Genesis 1 is the Garden of Eden story in Genesis 2:4b to 3:24. As noted above, scholars like Witt and Astruc already recognized the basic literary critical distinction between these texts in the 1700s. Scholars have added to their observations in the intervening centuries so that there is now more consensus on the distinction between Genesis 1:1 to 2:3 and 2:4 to 3:24 than on almost any other point of biblical scholarship. There is more agreement that Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 and 3 are separate documents than on almost any point in biblical scholarship. I think that's incredible. Nevertheless, there have been waves of disagreement, especially in recent years, on which text was dependent on which. The earliest historical critical scholars tended to see Genesis 1 as the earlier text. Then the Graf Rus Wellhausen revolution led most scholars to see Genesis 2 to 3 as the earlier text, with Genesis 1 possibly composed independent of knowledge of Genesis 2 to 3. From the 1990s onward, a wave of scholars has returned to a view that Genesis 1:1 to 2:3 was an earlier text, with Genesis 2:4 to 3:24 composed as a revision and extension to it. Finally, a group of recent scholars, sometimes termed neo-documentarians, have argued that the strata, of which Genesis 1:1 to 2:3 and 2:4 to 3:24 are a part, were composed independently of each other. The supposition of some kind of relationship between Genesis 1 and 2:3 is prima facie plausible, given the probable small size of the ancient Judean scribal elite class, especially in the post-monarchic period. It remains to be seen, however, whether we see good indicators in Genesis 1 and 2:3 that one or the other of these texts was written in relation to the other, and the extent and evident specificity of the intertextual interaction. Overall, there is no place where one text cites the other. The closest parallels between the two occur toward their beginnings and endings. Similar prologues occur toward the outset of each in 1:1 and 2:4b, both of which are followed by descriptions of state of things before God's creative actions. In addition, the closing sections of both texts feature a speech by God to God's council about human similarity between them. Let us make humans in our image similar to our likeness. See, the humans have become one of us. But the point I want to, the thing I want to point out here is, a couple things. Carr here is saying, I'll repeat it again, most scholars, the vast majority of scholars, agree about this. This might be the one thing that scholars agree about more than anything else in biblical scholarship, that Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 and 3 are separate creation stories, contrary to what Michael would have us believe here. The second thing is that, and this is my view, is that I do think Genesis 2 and 3 is the earlier one of these stories. And I do think Genesis 1 is written in partial updating of this story, in partial correction of this story, in partial response, expansion to it. There are, so for example, one of the things that I like to point out, other scholars have pointed this out. There's it's Genesis chapter 2. Is it I don't have the text. Let me pull the text up here. It's Genesis 2:16, 17, I think. Where
you're gonna use the best translation ever, right? The KJV.
Yeah, please bring it up. Let's do that.
The thing is, like, a lot of people, including me, talk about how terrible the KJV is. But the thing is,
they do some things right.
They don't even know the half of it, though. Like, the more you dig into it, the worse it gets.
That's funny. Okay. I'm actually looking here at where is it? Here, Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, in the second creation story. I'll put it up here in the Hebrew and the English. All right. Genesis 2:19. There we go. It's coming. Patience. There we go. Okay, Hebrew I switched it up. Hebrew on the left, English on the right. This is a famous part of the story. So up to this point, God has created the man, and he's planted a garden, and he's put the man in it, and he's commanded him to not that he can eat of every tree in the garden except for the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. As soon as you eat it, you're going to die. And then there's a transition here, and it says, for Yahweh God said, it is not good for the human to be alone. I will make a fitting counterpart for him. Some scholars have focused in on this expression, lo tov. It is not good for man to be alone, and have suggested that there is this frequent repetition in the Genesis 1 creation story, where over and over again on each successive day of creation, oh look, there's a kitty. Let's put that up. Over and over again on each successive day of creation, something that God repeats constantly is that everything is good. God created the light and it was good. God separated the light from the dark and it was good. God created the land and separated it from the water and it was good, and on and on and on. Some scholars will look at this as a response to parts of that Genesis 2 story where there are problems. Unlike that story, Genesis 1 wants to communicate, no. Everything was great. Everything was perfect. There was nothing wrong. It was all this incredibly copacetic world of wonder. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that, Lawrence. Sorry. I meant to do that.
That's totally fine.
So that's one element where it looks like Genesis 1 is sort of responding to something that it's not altogether on board with in the Genesis 2:3 creation story. There's other elements between the two that we see as compatible though as well. The fact that Genesis 1 calls humankind ha-Adam, the Adam. This is a repetition of the same term that is used in Genesis 2 and 3. For people who are interested, David Carr goes into some detail in his book on the formation of Genesis 1 to 11 on some of the places where we see these relationships.
He also has a commentary on Genesis 1 through 11.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Yes, that too. This is very good. So, but one of the things that and people like Michael want to downplay this stuff. They don't talk about the commonalities between the text in the same way that I do, or that Lawrence would, or that David Carr would, or like Ronald Handel also has a new commentary on the book of Genesis. They don't talk about the common features in the same way. They want to focus on similarities and patterns as a way to show that these texts were written by the same author. That there was at some earlier stage a composition that included both Genesis chapters 1, 2, and 3 in some form. And that these stories were never separate. That's at least the message that I'm getting from this, and it's just contrary to everything that scholars are telling us. Some of the things that we see that are different between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 and 3. Most famously, and this is something that that they started to notice as early as the 1700s, was the fact that in Genesis chapter 1, God is identified exclusively as Elohim, as the word that we understand from Hebrew to mean God, but also is just a generic term meaning a divine being. It seems to be functioning for the priestly writer as an honorific, but in the Genesis 2 and 3 creation story, he's identified by his name, Yahweh. Over and over in the text, God is identified as Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh, the divine being. There's an interesting part actually in this story. I'll put this back up here and show you something else that's kind of cool here. You can see this all throughout if we go all the way back up here to verse 4. Here, these are the generations of the sky and the ground when they were created, in the day that Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh God, God Yahweh in the JPS translation, made them. When no shrub of the field was yet on the earth, no grasses of the field had sprouted, because Adonai Elohim, Yahweh God, had not sent rain upon the earth. Going down to verse 7, Yahweh God, Adonai Elohim, formed the human from the soil's humus. Yahweh God, Adonai Elohim, planted a garden in Eden. From the ground, Yahweh God, Adonai Elohim, caused to grow every tree that was pleasing. There is a consistency through here in terms of the identity of this figure, the God who creates in chapter 2. There's an interesting shift, though, when you get to chapter 3. I think I've talked about this before. This is where we have the interaction between the serpent and the woman, and notice how the dialogue progresses here. Now, the serpent was the shrewdest of all the wild beasts that Adonai Elohim, Yahweh God, had made. It said to the woman, did Elohim, did God really say, you shall not eat of any tree of the garden? The woman replied to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the other trees of the garden. It is only about the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden that Elohim said, that God said, you shall not eat of it or touch it, lest you will die. And the serpent said to the woman, you're not going to die, but Elohim, God, knows that as soon as you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like Elohim, gods, knowing good and bad. So this is the only place in this entire part of the story where God is not identified as Yahweh Elohim, but is identified simply as Elohim, as God. Any thoughts on that, Lorence? What do you see there that makes
well,
you,
I mean,
you...
I mean, if he is, when you say that he is just identified as God and not Yahweh, are you talking about where the serpent says you will be like Elohim?
Not that so much. It's every time they're talking about, notice here in verse 1, the question, did God Elohim,
yes, Yahweh,
really
Yahweh
say?
Elohim, yeah.
And the woman replied, it's only of the tree in the middle of the garden that Elohim, God, said. And then he says here, God knows. So in this conversation between the woman and the serpent, there is no Yahweh Elohim. It's just Elohim. And that's unique to just this part of this entire story. Through the entire rest of it, he's always identified the same way as Yahweh Elohim. So I mean, I don't know if there's anything there that you see. I'll tell you what I think is going on, why I think this is. But it's interesting to me that this is yeah.
I mean, what I see is that you still have the remnants of early Israelite polytheism.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Right?
That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. You will be like Elohim.
Yeah.
Like the gods, right? Knowing good and bad. So what I think is happening, and Vish, what Vish and I have talked about this text before. And she has said, I think, sort of picking up on what you're saying, she said that when Eve and the Nachash, the snake, are talking to each other, they're talking about the gods, about the divine council. Could you translate this? Did the gods actually say this to you? And she replies, no, the gods told us, because from their perspective, this is what's happening. I think it's because they don't. It's because it's still probably with reference just to Yahweh, but not that Adam and Eve actually know the name of the God to whom there's, who created them at this point. He's just a God. It's generic for a reason. It's just a fun thing in the text that I like to point out.
Yeah, like the narrator knows, but they don't.
The narrator knows, but they don't. And that's part of the, like, when people encounter the documentary hypothesis, they often get tripped up on this point, right? Because originally the sources were distinguished on this feature, just the name of God. And so the mistake is often made that wherever you see the name Yahweh, that's like a J source.
Right.
And
yeah. Like obviously you have both of them together too. So
yeah. So it's not so much about that as it is about what the narrator knows versus what the people within the narrative actually know. So yeah. Anyways, we've been going for 2 hours already. I got a couple of super chats, but I know, did you do you have anything else you wanted to say or to add?
Not on this specifically, no.
Okay. So go.
Maybe one thing. And that thing would be, I still encourage Michael to learn at least one biblical language.
Please, God.
He certainly talks about these things enough.
Yeah. Even if it's Aramaic, Michael. Even if the only biblical language you learn is Aramaic, sort of a strange one to be your first one, but I'd be happy with just that. So I think just as one of the reasons I had a couple of reasons for wanting to cover this. On the one hand, I get very frustrated at the ways in which critical biblical scholarship gets strawmanned and caricatured by apologists. And that is exactly what's happening here. It wouldn't bother me. It wouldn't bother me if Mike and Than came out and said, we are aware that most biblical scholars, that the vast majority of biblical scholars hold to the distinction of Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 and 3 as separate stories of creation. We recognize that. They've made arguments about this for over 200 years, and this is still what most scholars think, but I have reasons to think otherwise. I would not mind that so much. Completely disagree with you, but at least I can stomach that. What I can't stomach is the groaning and the eye rolling and the face palming and the insistence that Rhett and Alex are somehow not doing their homework because they haven't picked up on your pet theory.
To be fair, we do a lot of eye rolling and face palming here.
Sure we do. I would say it's for a good reason. I'm not the one who's eye rolling and face palming at consensus, at broad consensus positions and going, what a bunch of idiots for thinking this. That's the difference, right? So if you're going to challenge these ideas, challenge these theories, and that I think is my second point, get them fucking right already. The ways in which you talk about the documentary hypothesis, the ways in which you present the source theories is a caricature. The scholarship does not work this way. It does not look like this. Read a book. Pick up David Carr's book on the formation of Genesis 1 to 11 and read it. Read Liana Feldman's book, A Consuming Fire, the translation of the P source. Read the Oxford Handbook to the Composition of the Pentateuch, edited by Joel Baden and Jeffrey Stacker. Read Baden's book on the composition of the Pentateuch. These are books that you should be reading and deal with those arguments. Deal with those constructions, that those ideas that scholars are putting forward. Don't rest on caricatures and laugh them off like they're stupid.
And also maybe reread Van Setter's.
Reread Van Setter's. Holy cow! Right? Look at that. And then I think finally, whatever you hold to, Michael, I'm convinced it's not the supplementary hypothesis. I think you're a fan of a traditional model of the composition of the Pentateuch, whereby something from Genesis through at least Numbers and maybe Deuteronomy was composed very early and then just updated over time. That's a traditional view. That is not the supplementary hypothesis. The supplementary hypothesis says, yeah, there's a whole bunch of sources in the Torah. There was something there in the there were these disparate pieces of literature that were there in these very early stages, but over a long period of time, they were pieced together. They were added to. They were fused with these transitional sections. And all of that happened quite late. So, and I guess my challenge to you too, beyond just learning a language, it would be nice to hear from you at some point about what you actually think the composition of the Torah looked like. Give us an idea. What was there in the beginning? What was attitude and why? How do we know the differences between those parts that you think were supplementary? What's your model? So, all right. Some super chats. Left-handed Jedi for $2. Oh yeah. So I think this was in part of in one of Michael's slides. He's showing how Adam and Eve were effectively priests in serving as priests in the garden. Eve was a priest. I don't remember that. So yeah, this is this idea, right? Right,
Yeah,
Lorence?
yeah, that they serve the same function in the garden. Like if they're meant to be like these protectors and making sure everything is kosher.
Yeah. So that, but I mean, to be clear, they're never. And this is Joel Carrico is he's really developed a lot on this idea too of how the Garden of Eden is representative of the sacred space of the tabernacle and the Temple Mount. And now, to be clear, at no point is anyone explicitly identified as a priest in this.
No one
story.
is called a Kohen.
No.
There.
Very good. Nice. Good job. So no one is called a Kohen, and no one is called a Levi. You probably recognize what that one is too.
Yeah, I definitely recognize that one. Yeah, there was no Levites around yet to be designated for the task.
None of those. So but the idea here is that that they are serving as analogs for priests. That the story is developed on the idea that that the tabernacle is essentially, and the temple is essentially a representation of the cosmos, of the original created order of things. So that's where that idea comes from. No, Eve wasn't a priest. So it's probably like analogous to a priest, but it's probably stretching things just to say that Adam and Eve were priests.
Yeah, because priests, I mean, they had special garb. They had a bunch of rules that were followed.
Exactly.
Sorry, a bunch of rules that were followed, like around them, based around them. So yeah, definitely not the same type of priesthood.
Not at all. So, but thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Simone for $5 New Zealand dollars. What do you make of the Nachash's question opening with Afki, which is like the literal translation of that is something like also that. It's a very weird way to open a question. No, I'm going to bring the text back up here. And I would agree. It certainly is odd. Let's look at this again here. I'll just zoom in like this. I can do it that way. So that's, where is that? That is Genesis 3. That's verse 2. Okay. Verse 1 here. Yeah. So, okay. The Nachash was Arum, Michal, Hayat, Hasadeh. He was more clever, more cunning, the shrewdest of all the animals of the field that Yahweh God had made. And he said to the woman, Afki Amar Elohim, was it so that the Elohim said, you shall not eat from any tree of the garden? That's the question.
Right. Someone points out we can't see the screen.
Oh, damn it. I'm so good at this.
I should have pointed that out, but I was dealing with my cat. He likes to hop on the table and eat books.
Shoot. Sorry. Okay. There we go. Yeah, there's the text. So and I've never I honestly I haven't spent enough time thinking about this. I'm just pulling it up here on in Hallowed to look and see what they say. How much more of Shokne antithetical, but yeah. There's a so directly it says here frequently. Here we go. Off key. Frequently, key introduces a plain conditional clause. Off key, shalachti. How much more if I send? Or elliptically introduces a question, the contents of which are preceded by key. Off key, amar. Did God really say in Genesis 3? Or off stresses a clause of time. Off key, even when. So, yeah. But it is, you're right. It's an unusual way of doing it. But thanks. It's always great because you always give me things to think about. Thank you for something else to think about. I always appreciate it. So, all right, I'll take the text down again. And then I've got one more here from Stuck in the Liminal Lighthouse for $10. Thank you very much. Out of the Divine Council, who would you pick for a patron if you had to? From the gods that now I assume we're talking about the Canaanite pantheon here.
I think we'd have to because it's not like some of these other ones are named.
No, there's not a lot that we know from the Canaanite pantheon either. I mean, we know of El and Baal and Ashura and Astarte and why can't I? Anat. Sorry, that's it. And Dagon was in there, and then the bad guys like Yeoman and Moat. For a patron, yeah, it's a good question. Do you have any thoughts on that, Lawrence?
Yeah, can we pick like Hittite ones? Can we count those?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
pick a Hittite god.
Okay, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, so my apologies. Is it Tarhuna?
Yeah, sounds pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, he was just another storm god, but he was far cooler.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool storm god. That's true. So if that, and maybe that's yeah, I don't know if as a patron, I really this is one of these questions where I feel like I would well I'll be honest with you. Dagon is actually pretty cool, even though he's fairly mysterious. He was extremely popular, and dating back a very, very long time, all the way into and far like widespread. Like there were Dagon cults all the way out in like Assyria in the early Bronze Age, like in the 2000s BCE. It's pretty cool. So yeah, Dagon's a fun guy, aren't you, buddy? So yeah, and you know what? He probably wasn't the abomination of the Philistines. We actually have no data on that outside of the Bible, actually, whether Dagon was prominent among the Philistines. So yeah, but thanks for that. I think I got one more here that just came in from Trent Hip. Thank you very much for the $2 super chat. The priestly Adam is in the Jubilee tradition. Oh yeah, that's very true. Jubilees is cool because it's like it's taking because that's one of the things, right? When you get down to and you look really closely at the sources of the Pentateuch, when you are investigating the boundaries between these different writers and redactors over time, one of the things you gain an appreciation for pretty strongly, pretty quickly, is that the priestly writer is like super pedantic and just very interested in making sure things are tight and that everything is done according to plan and everything all the procedures happen, it's all just very, and there's tons of numbers and lots of everything happens on an important day. This is what the priestly writer is all about. But then you get to the book of Jubilees, and this is like dialed up to 11. It's like the priestly writer on meth. Maybe let's say that. It's something else. But yeah. Thanks for the super chat. All right. Well, thanks for coming by and for hanging out, everyone. Yeah.
And I would like to say a couple things here.
Yes.
We were just talking about Jubilees. I do have a reading of Jubilees on my channel, reading and commentary.
Oh,
with a whole bunch of
wow.
other stuff too.
That's awesome.
Because we were. Oh, please tell me we were doing the Friday Apocryphal podcast. We're reading.
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we read a whole bunch of texts. Jubilees is one of them.
Sweet.
Yeah, but also just go subscribe to the Behold Network.
Go subscribe to the Behold Network, you guys, and join the Discord.
Do that. And join the Discord. That's the important part. And it's definitely my Discord. It's nobody else's Discord. It's mine.
It's nobody else's Discord. No. It's just Lawrence's. So excuse me. I didn't link the Discord in the description. I'll try to go back and put the link in there. But you probably have a link to the Discord on your channel.
Definitely.
So if you go to Lawrence's channel and subscribe to the Behold Network, then look for the Discord links there and join the Discord. So so by the way, this person, I'm not here, says, Lawrence, when I learn Greek, I will annoy you in your Matthew live streams.
That's totally fine.
That's all good, right? So do you have anything coming up in the near future that people should pay attention to?
Yeah, I have. I need to finish the script. It's been kind of a pain in the ass for a while. A lot of writer's block, a lot of probably depression. But I'm working on something on the Synod of Rome in 382.
Oh, neat.
There's some dirty little secrets about it. So I'm gonna delve into that council a bit more, or that synod, I guess. Yeah, into that synod a bit more, and after that, I'm going to keep working on my translation and commentary, but I also will be continuing work on my video on Melchizedek.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Yeah, that was going to be fun.
Is that a Melchizedek across the spectrum of
yes.
That'll be fun.
Yeah,
cool. Very interesting. I look forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
About that. So, and you'll be on Blasphemer's Bible tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe I'll actually pop by tomorrow.
Would be nice.
We shall see. I know. I had thought about it. I was so busy last weekend, though. I did 3 streams on Saturday last weekend. So when I woke up in the morning, I was like, but maybe tomorrow. I'm less busy tomorrow. But I am tomorrow at 11 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock Eastern. That's right. I'll be back on Dapper Dinosaur's channel with Vish doing stuff. And then on Sunday, somebody who I did see hanging out here, Katie Lewis, has started a new show on Sundays, Sunday afternoons at 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Eastern, called Nerd Church, where she and a couple of other people are reading through the Catholic lectionary, and with a critical eye. So I might pop in on that on Sunday. So, and then I'll be back next week with more stuff. So cool. But I think that's it. Thanks again, Lorence, for coming by.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, of course. This is fun, even though I am confident that I can do these things by myself. It's fun when someone's here hanging out with you. So yeah, appreciate it. And everyone go subscribe to Lorence, and I will be, oh yes, I should say that in 30 minutes I'm going to be on Top Hats Off for another episode of Star Trek Endurance. So and this stream will be directing everybody over there when it ends. So until next time, as always, be good, stay safe, and Ha Tikva.